In this video, I'm going to show you the different techniques and the different ways I go and approach side hits across the mountain in order to ride them with confidence and power, giving you the tools you need to start approaching side hits and tackling them like a pro. Side hits are probably one of the most fun things you can do in snowboarding, but they have a lot more inconsistencies than you'll find in the park. And this means you need to be very centered and very stacked over your snowboard. And there's a few really crucial techniques we go and use in order to do this. The first one is going to be your stack position. So right here, I'm holding a stack position, and stack positions actually go and shift. And it's just referring to having your weight set over the balls of your feet. We do this by having a little bit of bend in our legs, a little bit of hinge forward in our upper body, and letting our hips come back a little bit. And as I go and ride side hits and ride across a mountain, I'm maintaining the same center of balance. So even here, as I'm going and letting myself drop a little bit lower with my upper body in order to go and get into this angle of the takeoff, I'm still keeping my weight set over this point. And this is so beneficial because we want to go and pop up and not leave this point, trying to maintain that same balance point through the in-run, the takeoff, in the air, and that'll make it so you can go and keep that balance on the landing. And this is so important to keep on the landing. Let's use this one as an example. So first, I'm coming into the takeoff, nice and stacked over my board. You can see not too much bend, not too much hinge in the upper body. This is because I'm not trying to go and actually ollie off the lip. Side hits are way too short and way too stubby, and especially if you're hitting high speed like this, you're not going to have enough time to do a full ollie motion. So for a little kicky side hit like this, instead of going and trying to go and ollie through it, instead we want to try push through it while maintaining the stack position. So as I'm coming in, first holding a nice stable position. My upper body's stable, my legs have a little bit of bend, but not so much that they're in a weak state. From here, I'm holding this position, and then I'm driving power into the tail of my snowboard. And as I drive power into the tail of my snowboard, I'm making sure that it's not flexing the nose up or having the nose dip down. You get maximum power off these little hits by just matching the angle of the takeoff. So if we paint a line from the end of the takeoff to my board, I'm continuing the same arc it had me set on. As I'm doing this, I'm extending my legs, not so much that they're getting locked out, but enough that they're going and pushing me up and getting this max range of power. Power when jumping actually just comes from this little bit of motion right here to right here. The only reason you add more bend to your legs for something like an ollie is because you're trying to go and have more hip shift from back and forth. But because we're doing this short little side hit and it's a kicky little takeoff, instead of going and doing any of that, we're just focusing on keeping our upper body centered. And you might be noticing my chest is open towards the jump right now. That's because this landing is angled. So I need to make sure that I'm landing with my board slightly angled here. And we don't want to be trying to make that adjustment in the air because it's going to be too hard to control. So the solution for this and the answer to riding the side hit is going to be a few things. First, let's break down the in-run. Instead of going straight and then trying to turn into it, I'm preemptively setting my whole body on the angle of the takeoff. So my board's angled towards the takeoff, my hips angled towards the takeoff, my upper body's angled towards the takeoff. This is making it so it's like I'm riding just straight downhill, even though it's off the track. And this is minimizing the motions because we want to maintain a pretty flat base position. You obviously need a bit of toe edge to go and turn up here and grip into the snow, but we don't want to actually be getting on that edge and riding it because that's going to be a harder position to generate power from. And if we look at the takeoff, you can see that I'm leaving relatively flat base and I'm keeping myself as centered over my board as I can. And this is actually a cool little thing is you can have a little bit of toe pressure, but as you go and extend your legs, it's going to make it so you're less hunched over because now your body's taller. And when you do this, you want to lessen the pressure on the base of your snowboard. So even if you have a lot of toe edge coming into a feature because you need it to hit the feature, as you go and extend and pop up, we want to lessen that toe edge to take off as flat base as possible. The next thing I'm doing here is going and letting my upper body preemptively rotate to the angle of the takeoff, so that way my legs are going to come up and meet my upper body. So watch this. I'm coming in, popping off, not rushing my legs up. You can see I'm just kicking out the extension. And this is because popping off the lip and getting that extension will naturally go and throw your legs up to you as you get that moment of weightlessness. Here, my legs are pretty straight because I was a little bit surprised at how tall I was going. But watch this. The upper body is angled, and as the legs get pulled up, it now angles the legs to come back aligned with the upper body. And this is the key to riding any side hits or hips that go and make you land angled, is preemptively setting the angle of your upper body off the lip, so that way as your legs come up, your whole body is naturally aligned. And then what else am I doing here? I'm going and bringing up my legs to me a little bit, not super much. I'm not trying to get styly here. This is survival mode, but I'm bringing my legs up to me. And as I bring up my legs to me, I'm going and letting my upper body hinge forward, keeping that center of balance set on the same point. The more you go and bring your legs up, the more your hips need to go out, and the more your upper body needs to go forward in order to compensate for this, in order to keep that same center of balance. And the reason why we want this little bit of bend in our legs in the air here is so when we come to the landing, we can go and meet it. So see how my legs are in a straight extended position while I'm keeping my upper body hinged forward. This is keeping my center of balance over the same point, and by meeting the landing, it lets you go and absorb the impact, and that's going to make it easier to go and handle all the G's. And the last thing that's really important for landing all of these is making sure that as you crunch down, your center of balance is being in the same spot. So here you can see that my butt's coming out, my chest is coming down, but I'm having them go out and come down in correlation to one another, keeping that center of balance at the same point. For something like a powder landing like this, you'd have no idea if there's bumps or anything like that. If you let your weight come a little bit too much to your head or too much to your hips, it's going to make you go and start slipping out. And that's why it's really important to maintain that stacked position, even if you're tweaking it for what you're trying to do. Here, I'm doing a cliff drop to a pillow to a not too ideal landing. And let's go and break down the different techniques I'm using in order to go and fail on this one. I slip out on my heels and don't land it. And this is happening for really interesting reasons. So first, what techniques am I using? Because this is just a roll in and it's a downward takeoff, I'm not going to be able to pop and get that full extension because there's nothing to kick my board back up to me. So I want to make sure I'm maintaining a little bit more bend in my legs, a little bit more bend in my upper body, especially because I have to prep for this pillow down below. So I'm keeping myself in this more bent position, and I'm extending a little bit, just enough to try to get me to that pillow, but I'm trying to maintain enough bend in my core. But you can see I'm actually extending myself a little bit too much because my arms are coming out. So I would have wanted to take a little bit more speed here, and that would have let me keep a bit more hinged position, but because I was going too slow, I had to go and pop out of my more natural position, and that's where these arm waves are coming from. Next, I'm hitting this pillow, and watch the technique I'm using. My upper body is hinged forward in correlation to my legs bent, so my center of balance is at the same point. Even with that little bit of funk, I'm making sure that I'm in that stacked position for when I hit this bump. And then as my legs come down and I get G'd out, I'm going to make sure that center of balance is at the same point. And this is where it goes wrong. I go and try to meet the landing, match it, but I'm going and having my weight too shifted towards my tail and towards my bum. And this is what's causing me to go and slip out heel heavy. The reason why I did this is because I was trying to change my landing momentum. So we can see that my angle of momentum is slightly this way, but I'm trying to go and rotate my upper body after the fact and trying to make it so I'm pointed more downhill. And because I'm going and trying to make it after the fact I left the lip, changing my angle to this downward approach, that's making it so I have sideways momentum. This would be fine if it was like really deep snow because you could go and push through, disperse that momentum and still have time, but the snow was a little bit more shallow than I thought. So this technique I used to try go and slam into the snow and change my momentum, I hit the bottom, and because my weight was set too much over my bum, I went and slipped out to the heels. So let's go and break this down a little bit more. So we are in this stacked position, but if we try to draw a line, we can see that I'm not centered, I don't have my weight set at the balls of my feet, I don't have enough hinge forward for how my positioning is. I would have needed to pull my upper body more forward to keep that center balance more here. It is fine to be trying to land a little bit backseat heavy, and as I'm landing backseat heavy, notice that my upper body is still maintaining the center balance in my snowboard. I'm not having my whole weight shift towards that back foot. Instead, I'm letting my upper body shift forward. I'm just using a tilt in the hips to angle this board up. That's proper, but because I'm just set a little bit too much over the heel edge As I go and squat down, my center of balance is not coming and staying over the toes on my snowboard. Instead, it's being set over the heels, driven towards that tail. And that's how subtle the stack position is. Even though I'm almost stacked here, because my momentum was set going this way and I tried to force it to going this way, that's making it so as I squat down, my board wants to come out this way, and as I go and absorb that impact, I'm not going and keeping myself over top of the board, maintaining that same balance position throughout the full duration, resulting in slipping out. So I could have landed this easily by going and just making sure right here, instead of trying to open my chest and land over here, instead if I just stayed closed off, kept in a stack position, and tried to ride out a little bit more angled towards my filmer, so landing instead of facing this way, but facing this way, I would have been more stacked, more balanced, and I would have been able to handle the more shallow snow. Here we have a high-speed, no-lip feature, and that means we're going to want to generate all the pop and all the power through our snowboard. And we make a couple of changes to do this. The first one being, notice how my board isn't matching the angle of the takeoff. I'm actually going and changing the angle and generating the power for myself. This is meaning that I'm utilizing an ollie. To ollie, I'm going and having my upper body hinge forward more. This one especially so because I'm coming in on a toe edge turn. So I'm going and trying to keep that center of balance and rounding the spine a bit. What's not generally ideal, but look it, I'm still keeping my center of balance over the balls of my feet. You can get away with a lot of funk if you keep your center of balance over the same point. And then the reason why I have this more bend is look at my weight. See how it's shifted towards my front foot right now? This shoulder is all shifted towards my front foot. This is because when I'm trying to do an ollie, I'm shifting my weight now to my back foot. And as I shift my weight to my back foot, that's going to start flexing my board. But if we go and take off completely on our back foot, we're going to land back foot heavy. So as I go and then extend my hips, extend my upper body, I'm pulling my upper body back forward. So it leaves you in this position where your weight's set over your back foot, but your upper body's trying to pull back to your neutral position. And it's this pull back to the neutral position that lets you go and ollie and actually land in control. And you know you got it perfect when you can go and bring up your legs and just float through the full duration of the trick, not needing to make any adjustments. That's the goal on all of these jumps, is to go and pop up and not need to make any adjustments in the air. For a downhill cliff like this, that has a sniper landing, I'm not going to pop. Instead, I'm preemptively setting my weight very bent over, ready to absorb the impact. And I'm not trying to pop off the lip. Instead, I'm just maintaining tail pressure as I slide off the end. This is making it so I'm sort of disconnected. I didn't get the pop, I didn't get control. And that's why the arms are all wishy-washy and jumbled. But because my upper body was in this position, preemptive for the landing, made it so I could land and absorb. And look at how I'm landing here. Tail first, upper body forward, and this time I'm making sure that I have enough forward arc in my body in order to go and keep my center of balance over the balls of my feet. And that's why, even though this landing's a little more treacherous than the one before, I was able to land and ride away. For a little pill like this, I'm just going and maintaining pressure on my board. See how my board is matching the angle of the takeoff the whole way. I'm doing this by shifting my weight to my back foot, but then pulling my upper body back forward. So my head is towards my front foot here, even though my hips are towards the back foot, and that's keeping the center of balance stacked in the middle of my snowboard. And that's really important in powder, is maintaining that center of balance, because now as I come into the landing, I need to have my center of mass back stacked overboard in order to not go and slip out. Here's the last side hit we'll go and break down in the video, and this is going to be the most similar one you'll find on the mountain. There are side hits like this everywhere. This one has a little bit of a sniper landing. You don't want to land on like this little uphill patch because it's going to buck the legs, and it's a little short takeoff. So let's go and break down the techniques that I'm using in order to succeed on this one. So the first thing I'm doing is make sure that I keep the stack position. I'm coming in on my heel edge for this feature. That means I need to have more bend in my legs and more hinge forward in my upper body, because I need to keep my weight pulling forward towards my toes, even though I'm trying to keep pressure on the heel edge. And that's a rule. If you're going and doing a heel edge side hit, you need a bit more bend in the legs. And if you're bending the legs more, you need to compensate for this by hinging in the upper body more. And then as I go and get turned, get off at heel edge, I'm now moving to my more neutral stack position. We can still see it's a little bit on the heels here, so my upper body is more hinged over than it would be, but now I've gotten my board angled with the jump. And that's really going to be the key for heel side, toe side hits, is trying to remove as many variables as you can. So I had to do a turn here, but I went and got it so my hips, board, and upper body are all angled. So now this is just like a straight downhill feature for me. From here, as I go and pop and extend, I'm now completely removing that heel pressure. I don't need the heel pressure, I'm already turned, I'm already on the correct angle, so I can go and flatten out and keep myself into my stack position, but I want to use in the air and in the landing off the takeoff. And to do this, I'm extending my legs, but not fully. Full extension of the legs isn't usually what you want, because overextension will make it so your core's getting elongated, and it's going to make it hard to bring your legs and upper body back together. I'm keeping that little bit of hinge forward, keeping the center of balance set over the same point, and I'm making sure that my board is matching the angle of the takeoff, not trying to flex higher and not dipping down, just by going and pushing into a side hit. Popping and generating height off of side hits isn't about popping up and lifting your legs. Instead, it's about pushing into the ground and trying to maximize the time your board is making contact with the snow. And we do this by trying to mold our board around the feature. If it's bumpy, if it's kicky, we're trying to just push our board in and try to mold it through. Think about like having a little bit of plasticine and trying to like jam it into a corner. You're like jamming it and molding it to that corner. Same thing we're trying to do with our snowboards. Our snowboards are soft, flexible, so we're trying to make it mold, match the shape of the feature, and just go and form with it. And as we do this, we go and we push our board, trying to maintain contact, maintain pressure throughout the lip, and then as the snow goes and falls away and you leave that point, that tension that you've been building up by pushing, molding your board to the feature will make it so your board snaps up, and that natural pop from relieving of the tension that you were building is what will go and bring your legs to you. So here now we can see that my legs are in a fully extended point because I fully pushed off the lip. But as I did this, I didn't fully extend my upper body. I still kept a little bit of hinge forward. If you want a little less pop, you don't need to extend quite to this point. But if you're trying to get that max pop, using this last little bit of motion will really help. This is the strongest part of your body right here, or the strongest part of your jump, I should say. It's this little bit of motion. Look at long jumpers, look at high jumpers. It's that little bit of boom, jam up, that pushing with that combined with the angle of the feature and the kick of the jump will go and snap your legs back up to you. And as I pull my legs back up to me, I'm keeping my center of balance at the same point. So even though it's a very different body position, this to this, the center of balance is exactly the same. And by holding the same center of balance, it gives me control and it lets me go and match out and meet the landing. So here we're back into a position that's very similar to the takeoff. And then as I absorb that impact, I squat down and try to maintain that same balance point. Here I fail it a little bit, and you can see that I go and put too much weight onto my heel edge, and that's why my board sort of kicks out. And that's how important and how finicky this can be. You want to go and take off in that position, land in that position, disperse your impact in that position. If you start shifting away from that same stacked point, you're going to start bucking out and getting less control. So as a recap, for side hits, it's all about maintaining that stacked position, going and molding your board to the feature, not trying to lift off it. By maximizing the contact and simplifying the motions you're taking into every single side hit, you can go and focus on getting that pop, getting that control, and that's going to make you a much better rider. So when you're riding side hits, think about holding your stack position, preemptively setting your angles, and then maintaining that stack position through the full duration, and that will let you land side hits like a pro. Have a good one, and thanks for watching.